Welcome to Heaven of Human. This is the place where we talk about real life, real lessons, and the truths we often ignore. Here, I don't give you empty motivation. I give you perspective, direct, clear, and grounded in reality. Because human growth doesn't come from comfort. It comes from facing the hard truths that shape us into stronger people. So take a deep breath, open your mind, and let's step into today's lesson together.
What if tomorrow morning, every person in the world earned the exact same salary? Doctors, engineers, street sweepers, pilots, teachers, cleaners, all taking home 100,000 baht a month. No more differences, no more comparison, just perfect financial equality. At first, it sounds fair. It sounds peaceful, almost like a society where everyone finally gets what they deserve. But if you look past the fantasy, you'll see something darker. A world where motivation disappears, systems collapse, and progress stops. Because the moment every salary becomes equal, responsibility becomes meaningless. Why study medicine for 10 years if you can earn the same by sweeping floors? Why manage a power plant, take night shifts, or make life or death decisions when an easy job gives you the same reward? Equality sounds good, but when reward doesn't match responsibility, people simply choose the easiest path. And when too many people choose the easiest path, a society slowly begins to fall apart. This isn't about judging any profession. It's about understanding the backbone of every functioning economy: value exchange. The world pays more for roles that are harder, heavier, riskier, and require deeper knowledge. If everyone earns the same, no one has a reason to carry the heavy load anymore, and the entire system fails. Real equality isn't about giving everyone the same reward. It's about giving everyone the same opportunity to grow, to learn, and to rise through their own effort. And when we forget that truth, we confuse fairness with fantasy, and we end up destroying the very structure that keeps life running.
Let's imagine this world clearly. A world where every single person earns 100,000 baht a month, no exceptions. The garbage collector, the street sweeper, the doctor performing heart surgery, the engineer responsible for a city's power grid, the scientist researching vaccines, the pilot flying hundreds of people across the ocean, all earning the exact same amount. At first, many people would celebrate. Finally, equality. Finally, no more rich, no more poor. Finally, justice. But within weeks, the cracks would start to show. The first sector to collapse would be the labor force. Why would anyone do physically demanding, dirty, or exhausting jobs when easier work pays exactly the same? Street cleaning, trash collection, basic maintenance, all would face mass resignations. People would chase the easiest job that still pays 100,000 baht. The next to fall would be high-responsibility professions. Doctors, engineers, pilots, scientists. They carry the weight of lives, systems, and safety. If they earn the same as someone doing a low-stress role, why stay? Why endure pressure, risk, long study hours, sleepless nights? They would quit. Not because they're greedy, but because the reward no longer matches the burden. And then the education system would collapse. Who would invest years studying medicine or engineering if a sixth grader can earn the same salary in a simple job? Universities would empty. Skilled professions would vanish. The pipeline of future experts would dry up completely. In the beginning, everyone looks richer, but only for a moment, because the entire structure that keeps prices stable would break. Food prices would skyrocket because farmers, cooks, drivers, logistics workers would demand even more to stay. Rent would explode because landlords must adjust to the new wage level. Transportation, fuel, electricity, manufacturing, every cost would rise. In the end, a salary of 100,000 baht would have the purchasing power of 20,000 baht today. Equality becomes an illusion. Inflation destroys the rest. So why did Tick call this idea foolish in his headline? Not because equality itself is bad, but because forced equality ignores reality. The world never rewards everyone equally because the world is built on different abilities, different efforts, and different levels of responsibility. And that's normal. When someone is more knowledgeable, more skilled, more committed, it makes sense they earn more. Not because they're better as a human, but because their value to the system is different. At the same time, if someone chooses the easiest path, puts in the least effort, avoids learning, avoids improving, it also makes sense they earn less. It's not about discrimination. It's not about social hierarchy. It's about a simple truth of economics. Reward follows responsibility. Income follows value. Tick used a powerful metaphor. If God created only tigers and no deer, the tigers would end up eating each other. Balance requires diversity, different roles, different strengths, different contributions. The same is true for society. We need people who are fast and people who are careful, people who are highly trained and people who support daily operations, people who build, people who serve, people who teach, people who innovate. Different layers, different positions, different paths. And that diversity doesn't make one group more human than another. It makes the system work. The uncomfortable truth is this: there is no such thing as perfect equality in outcome. There has never been. And trying to force it overnight, artificially, only leads to collapse. What we do have, however, is the chance to raise our own value, to build more skill, to increase our ability, to become someone who can offer more, and therefore earn more. Because the law of life is the law of exchange. If you want 100,000 baht, you must bring 100,000 baht worth of knowledge, skill, or resilience. If you want 1 million, your mindset, skill, and effort must match that level. The world is not unfair. It is simply balanced. And balance demands that reward matches contribution.
The comfort of fantasy versus the weight of reality. People love the idea of equality because it feels comforting. It removes guilt, removes pressure, removes the uncomfortable truth that life is unequal. When we imagine a world where everyone earns the same salary, what we're really imagining is a world where effort and responsibility don't matter anymore. A world where we can finally stop comparing ourselves to others. That's why this fantasy spreads easily. It sounds moral. It sounds humane. It sounds like the fastest way to end all suffering. But the reason fantasies feel good is because they don't carry the weight of reality. Reality is built on structure. It's built on skill gaps, effort gaps, knowledge gaps, and responsibility gaps. It's built on the fact that some people carry more weight than others, and they are compensated accordingly. When we pretend everyone is equal in ability, we ignore the truth that keeps society functioning. Different work has different consequences. A mistake by a cashier is not the same as a mistake by a surgeon. A missed detail in housekeeping is not the same as a missed detail in aircraft maintenance. The level of risk determines the level of pay. This isn't cruelty. It's physics. It's the way systems survive.
The moment society stops recognizing differences and responsibility, we stop rewarding the people who hold society together. And when those people walk away, everything else collapses behind them. Section 1 is about facing this uncomfortable truth. Equality of outcome isn't fairness, it's denial. And denial, on a national scale, is the beginning of collapse. When we stop believing in ability, discipline, and skill, we also stop believing in the path upward. We stop believing that effort matters. We stop believing that growth matters. And the moment people stop believing in growth, a society doesn't slowly decline, it falls sharply, suddenly, and irreversibly.
When responsibility loses its meaning. To understand why equal salaries destroy a society, you must understand one simple principle. People don't avoid hard work because they're lazy. They avoid it because the reward doesn't match the cost. Think about the people who hold the most fragile parts of society. The doctors who make life or death decisions. The engineers who prevent bridges from collapsing. The pilots responsible for hundreds of lives. The scientists who push human knowledge forward. Their work requires years of study, massive stress, high responsibility, and the possibility of catastrophic consequences when something goes wrong. Now imagine telling them, your effort, your pressure, your risks are worth exactly the same as someone doing the simplest, lowest pressure job. You're not making things fair. You're erasing the meaning of responsibility. When every path leads to the same reward, only a fool would choose the hardest one. And society cannot function with an empty top layer. Without specialists, decision makers, and high-skill workers, hospitals become dangerous, infrastructure fails, innovation stops, and national progress freezes. What collapses isn't just work. It's the entire incentive system that keeps civilization moving forward. Most people don't realize this. A society doesn't need everyone to be exceptional, but it absolutely needs some people to carry the hardest burdens. And those people only exist because the world rewards them proportionally. Take the reward away, and we take the backbone out of society. This is the uncomfortable awareness of Section 2. Not all work is equal, because not all consequences are equal. And if we pretend otherwise, we destroy the very structure that keeps us safe, healthy, and moving forward.
The chain reaction people don't see. When people imagine equal salary for everyone, they think only about the money in their hands. They don't think about the chain reaction behind the scenes, the domino effect that touches every corner of the economy. If everyone earns 100,000 baht, every business owner must also pay 100,000 baht, not just to specialists, but to every cleaner, every cashier, every delivery worker, every trainee. That single change sends a shockwave through the system. Production becomes more expensive. Transportation becomes more expensive. Food becomes more expensive. Housing becomes more expensive. Electricity, logistics, materials, labor, every cost increases together. And what happens when the cost of producing everything rises? Prices explode. Inflation surges. The same salary that once felt rich quickly becomes meaningless. This is the part most people ignore. Your income doesn't matter if your purchasing power dies. 100,000 baht is useless if a bowl of noodles costs 800, if rent jumps to 40,000, if basic electricity bills triple, if a simple taxi ride becomes a luxury. When rewards disconnect from value, the cost of everything rises to fill the gap. And in the end, you're not equal. You're simply trapped in a more expensive world. This is why countries collapse, not from lack of money, but from destroying the connection between effort, skill, and reward. Equality sounds beautiful until you follow the chain reaction to its final outcome. A society where everyone earns the same, but lives worse than before. Section 3 reveals the truth people refuse to look at. When value disappears from the system, money loses its meaning, and equality becomes poverty, dressed as progress.
Raising your value instead of demanding equality. If forced equality collapses society, then what actually lifts a person out of their current situation? The answer is simple, but not easy. You raise your value, not your complaints. People often expect life to pay them more without asking if they're offering more. They want a bigger salary while keeping the same knowledge, the same habits, the same efficiency, the same level of responsibility they had years ago. But in every functioning system on Earth, income follows value. Not dreams, not entitlement, not anger at the system. Value. If you increase the value you bring to the world eventually increases what it gives back. This doesn't mean becoming a genius overnight. It means focusing on upgrades that move you into higher ground. Learn skills that reduce problems for others. Take roles that carry more responsibility and decision-making. Build knowledge that fewer people have. Improve your ability to think, solve, and create. Become someone people trust in moments of difficulty. Every step like this pushes you upward, not because the world is kind, but because the world is structured around usefulness. When you improve yourself, you stop depending on society to be fair, because you start building your own advantage. You start seeing what high-value people see, that the world doesn't reward equality, it rewards improvement. The truth is this: you don't need everyone to earn the same salary. You need to become someone whose work naturally earns more. Instead of asking, why don't we all get paid equally, ask, what can I learn or improve today that makes me too valuable to ignore? That mindset shift alone can move a person further than 10 years of waiting for fairness.
Building skills that survive any economy. If you want income that grows, you must build skills that don't collapse when the world changes. Skills that keep you valuable, no matter who is president, no matter what industry rises or falls, no matter how chaotic the economy becomes. Most people underestimate how fragile their skills really are. They depend on tasks anyone can do, roles anyone can replace, or knowledge that loses relevance every few years. And when the system shifts, their income collapses with it. But high-value people don't rely on luck. They build transferable skills. Skills that move with them. Skills that increase demand wherever they go. These are skills like problem-solving under pressure, leading people through difficulty, critical thinking and decision-making, communication that influences, not just informs, technical knowledge others avoid because it's too hard, the ability to manage complexity, not run from it. When you develop abilities like these, your income doesn't depend on equality because your value becomes undeniable. In every economy, in every industry, there are people who rise above the chaos simply because the world needs what they can do. This is the truth most people ignore. If your skill is rare, you never have to beg for fair treatment. If your contribution is unique, you never fight for the same salary as others, because the system naturally pulls you upward. So instead of hoping the world becomes equal, focus on becoming the kind of person any company, any industry cannot function without. Someone whose presence makes things smoother, safer, faster, or more profitable. Equality becomes irrelevant when your skill set makes you irreplaceable. This is how real financial stability is built. Not through demands, not through waiting,
but through becoming someone whose value naturally commands higher reward.
Aligning your effort with the reward you want. If there's one law that never breaks, not in physics, not in economics, not in human life, it is this: you cannot receive more than the level of effort, discipline, and intelligence you invest. People often say they want a higher income, a better lifestyle, more comfort, more freedom. But wanting is not the problem. Everyone wants. What separates people isn't desire, it's alignment. If you want a 100,000 baht life, you need a 100,000 baht habits. If you want a million baht future, you need million baht discipline, million baht thinking, million baht resilience. You cannot live on shortcuts and expect full rewards. You cannot avoid pressure and expect high pay. You cannot refuse growth and expect advancement. This is where many people get stuck. They expect the world to adjust itself to their comfort level. But the world adjusts itself only to value, never to comfort. The sooner you accept this truth, the sooner your life begins to change. Start asking yourself clearer, sharper questions. What skills do I lack for the income I want? What responsibility am I avoiding? Where can I upgrade my thinking today? What level of discipline matches the reward I'm aiming for? Because the moment your effort and your desired outcome align, your life stops fighting you. Opportunities open more easily, people trust you more quickly, and your work becomes noticed without you begging for recognition. This is the final solution. Stop asking for equal reward. Start building equal value. When what you give matches what you seek, the world doesn't need to be equal. It becomes generous.
Remember this: human growth isn't about being perfect. It's about refusing to stay small when you know you can be more. Every day you choose whether to protect your value or to give it away. And those choices, repeated over time, shape your future. So take what you've heard today and live it. Not tomorrow, not someday, now. Because time never waits, and neither should you. If this message spoke to you, subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Together, let's build a life of real strength, real discipline, and real growth.